On YouTube but don't quite know what to do. One place you can start is with Streamlabs. Streamlabs is an OBS system that takes the complexity out of OBS and allows you to go live in a matter of minutes, not hours. Head on over to Streamlabs. We have a link down in the bottom of this video that will take you to Streamlabs. And when you're on Streamlabs, you'll be able to download the Streamlabs system. When I click download, it's going to ask me, because I'm on a Macintosh, which version and what type of processor I have in my system. I've already gone ahead and downloaded previously because I've used this many times to go live, and we'll switch over to the system right now. Okay, when you download the system, you're going to see a blank screen. It's not going to be set up for you to be able to go live yet. You have to develop your layouts, and your layouts are what you're going to do in the editor. Now, the first thing is if I click the layout editor, it's going to show me the different sections of my Streamlabs desktop so that I know what I'm working with. The top portion is your editor display. This is the area that's going to show you what your viewers are going to see on your live stream. The bottom sections in this particular layout are going to be reserved for what you actually see on your screen. So the mini feed is going to give you information about your chat. It's going to let you know your last subscribers. So it's going to give you a running feed, usually one or two of the last actions that were taken. We'll look a little bit more at the screen selector, the source selector, and your audio mixer. Now, if you want this to be a little bit different layout, you don't want to actually see the mini feed right there, or it takes away the audio source, you can change your layout editor. If you want to see much more windows, and matter of fact, want to drag something over here and actually see, for example, the stream preview, then you can drag it here. But I'm going to stick with the basic layout editor, and now we'll go over to the editor itself. Now, this is where you're actually making the changes that you're going to work with. You have choices as to the type of screen settings that you want to have. I'll go here and manage my screen selection. You can use overlays, and I'm going to cover overlays in a different video. You can find that. It'll pop up here in the cards, and that will show you details about the overlays that are available. But we're going to go ahead and start from absolute scratch. I want to be able to go live, and I'm going to make this the Ask the Earl. And this is going to be a training screen that I'm going to lay out and click OK. So once it creates this particular stream here, you'll see this Ask the Earl. I can go ahead and exit out of this pop-up, and it will now take me back to my layout. This is top part is what the users are going to see. This section down here is the scenes that I have. So scenes would be walking you through, and it would be different layouts that you can switch to back and forth so that you can show a full screen, camera only. We'll go through and show you some of the details on this. Your sources will be actually what you are streaming, or your screens, other information like that. And you'll see the audio mixer, it is picking up my microphone. So although I'm not recording through my Streamlabs here, I'm using a screen recorder, you can see that it's picking up my audio here on the mixer. So let's go to the particular streams, scenes, for example. So if I wanted to do a scene, and I'm going to rename it, and this is going to be my camera only. So I'm going to hit Control, I'm going to rename, and I'll go back here and call it camera only. So when I set this screen as being camera only, I'm now going to click my sources. And we can go through each one of the sources, and I will do that in just a bit. But for this particular portion, I want to make this my video capture display. My video capture display, as you see over here, supports built-in webcam, any Logitech cams, any capture cards that you have. And this is how you would also be able to stream your games that are coming in. But for this case, I'm going to use a built-in or a Logitech webcam that I have. So if I go to add the source, it's going to ask me, okay, this is going to be a video capture device. You can rename this if you want to. If you have one being your camera that you're working with, another input being from a screen. So if I add the source, it will now show up, and you see that it's using the camera. In this particular case, it has selections here. It's either the FaceTime camera that I have here on my particular machine, which gives you a little bit different view than what you're seeing in my screen recorder, or I can switch over to the HD camera, and now you see the information that we're seeing there. I'm just going to go ahead and have two cameras there and go ahead and have the FaceTime camera. When I hit done, it now has placed this on my 19 by 20 screen. I want you to notice here, right here, that it is, when I click on this, that it's saying that it's 640 pixels away from the edge and 360 from the bottom. In a more advanced version of this, another video that I'm creating, you'll see how I can use Canva as a graphic editor, save my images, and use that as the overlay that I have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stretch this all the way out so that this is my camera only display. So if I want to go to just strictly the camera, I would pick this particular scene. It would have my microphone that's working right here, and that's how you would see the source of it. So now we've set up a camera only screen, but I want to be able to show my screen, something that's going on in a, let's say, Chrome browser, at the same time that I'm narrating something. So I'm going to add a second scene, and I'm going to call this Chrome with camera, because I want to be able to identify what I'm switching between. So now that I've created a completely new scene that is here, you don't see anything on the screen at this particular time. You only see up here my camera that I'm doing. If I switch back to camera only and then Chrome, I can go back and forth between the two. So let's go ahead and set this up, and I'm going to add a source. The first source that I'm going to add is going to be my camera device again. I add the source, and it asks me, do you want to use the same source that you identified before? Because I could have multiple video capture displays. I'm going to say, yes, I want to go ahead and do that. And I want my camera, in this particular case, to be a little bit smaller, and I want it to appear in the lower right-hand corner. Now I go to add other sources that are here, and we're going to talk through a couple of the sources. One of the first things that I'm going to do is my display capture. If I click display capture, this is going to be either giving me my primary monitor, secondary monitor. I happen to have a 3-monitor setup here, so I'm going to go ahead and add the source, and this is going to be display capture monitor 1. So when I add the source, I'm stuck in the matrix here where it is my main display, or I can actually say I want to show what is on display number 2 right here, and I also want to be able to show the cursor. Now, if I wanted to crop out the information and go only to a specific window, I could do that and select, well, which window is it that I want to do? And I could pick that it was strictly the Google Chrome and only that particular browser. For now, I'm just going to have it be the entire window. Whatever shows up there, I'm going to go ahead and select this. Now, here it is. It's actually displaying. I'll go over here. I'll open up to Google, and you'll see that anything that displays over here is going to show up. This would be great if I'm doing a tutorial, yet we have a little bit of an issue here. It has taken over the entire screen, and I'm not able to see the camera. Well, this was where the camera display would be showing. So when you think of sources, you can think of this regarding layers. Similar to when you're doing a graphic program and you want to put one layer on top of the other, here within Streamlabs, you can drag the layer and drop it below the camera, and it might take a second to go there. Now you see that I have dragged this down below it, and you see the overlay of my camera being able to do the display over here. My screen's a little faded out because that's what my screen capture is doing at this particular point. So now I have an ability to display what's going on my screen and have my video camera in the lower level. But we want to add on a little bit more because we're going to go live. Now, this could have been a video game that I captured within here. It could have been an alternate source. You saw that I had the choice of going between my different monitors. So let's go to the sources that we have. In a case of a media file would allow me to upload a video. Let's look at the different choices. An MP4, a movie file, an MP3. If I wanted a video to show over the top of this, that is something that I would be able to select. If I wanted to do a window capture, this would work with most browsers and windows. So if I go ahead and add this as a particular source, do a window capture, it's going to ask me which window am I trying to do. I will go here. It's very similar to the display capture that we already did. So I'm going to not select that. Well, here it is. It did select it, and I don't want that to be on there. Notice that it didn't put the difference between the two. I'm going to drag this all the way down and show you the difference between a display capture. The display capture captured everything that was on the window and was grayed out. When I take the Windows capture and put this above here, now you'll notice that it is strictly what was within the Google Chrome browser. You do not see the upper bar that's on there that would be for the Apple information and the screen and file information. So you know what? I actually like this a little bit better. I'm going to stretch this down. I want to move it over so that I'm actually seeing the full left side. If I move my mouse up here, I'm looking up at the screen. If I move it, you actually see the Google. You see this. Fantastic. We were able to do that. Now, what do I do with the display monitor that was down here? I can do two things. You see right here that there is a hide, unhide. Even though it's buried in a layer, I can say, do not pay attention to it, or I can go here to the trash can and I can have it remove that from my monitor. So now I've got my video capture, my window display. Anytime you add something, add a source, it's going to put it at the top, and you need to make a decision as to where you're going to layer something. Event list will let you know recent events that you want to display. Did somebody make a donation to you? Did they do a subscription? Did they follow? Were there any bits and redemptions that they did? So if I add my sources as far as it being an event list, I can do this. It's now going to allow me to manage the widget that's going to display. So, do I want it to show subscriptions? Yes, I can do that, and it will display any subscriptions that I have, any members that I have, the font settings that I want it to be, how it's going to visually display, any of the sources that I'm using, and it will have this information on there. Now you see that it's displayed it, and it showed who was the last person that subscribed, when was the last time there was a comment, when was there a last time that there was a list that was on here. Again, I can change the size of this a little bit and move it. I could even have part of it overlap here on my camera, and I'm going to do that purposefully to be able to go here. Now you have to think about what is it that you're going to try to display on the screen, because if I pull up a different screen, if I'm trying to show, let's say ESPN.com, and I'm trying to do the display, that might hide some of the information that you're trying to see. Nope, that actually works out pretty good because it's laid out in such a way that maybe my camera is a little bit much in the way. So I'm going to click my video capture device. I'm going to move it a little bit so it is in line with the page I'm trying to display. I will be able to move this down, and now you see how the layers are starting to fit together. I go back over here to Ask the Earl on my YouTube channel, and you see that we have another source that we've added. Another thing that you could do is stream labels. Stream labels will be shoutouts that you have. Hey, we've got a new follower, a new subscriber. This is a way to engage the folks that are watching your live stream. And as you become monetized, as you have memberships available with your live streams, whether it be on YouTube, Twitch, the other varieties that you're going with, then this would give you an opportunity to put those things in there. Images. If I want to do an image, this allows me to put in a PNG, a JPEG, a GIF, a BMP. When I go to add the source, it will ask me what the name of the image is. I can name it and say, well, this is actually going to be X, Y, or Z, or I can actually say what I want it to be. I do live streams where I show highlights and I'm doing screenshots. Well, I want to remember what is the screenshot that I'm going to switch to. What is the screenshot that I want to pick up? So I'm going to put here that it's actually Robert, and I'm going to put coffee, okay? And you'll see why in just a second. When I go to add my particular source that I'm looking for, it's going to have a picture of me. There we go. Now, because the image had a background, and again, it's at the very top, if it has a background, then that image is going to show up and be here. So I might use this over here on the side and only have it pop up when I want to make a little comment or something like that. Now again, if I wanted it to not be displayed, I click the eyeball and it disappears, but it still shows me where that would be. So I could be talking about something and giving an example and then give a shout out to somebody and say, hey, thanks for buying me. Oh, I should go in here. Yep, let's display it. Thanks for buying me a cup of coffee. Boom. I click and it has gone away. So that shows you the image of how to be able to add that for a source. If I wanted something to show up, case in point, over here on the side, what if this doesn't quite show up well enough? If I want to actually have a color block, then I can go ahead and do this, and it could be a specific color that I wanted. So in this case, it could be white. I have full selection of everything that I want to do. You know what? I want to do something that would be maybe a red block that will show up. There it is. I can move this block. Now, wait a second. That covered up what I was looking for, but let me just set the particular size. And now if I drag that behind the event list, now you see that the event list is highlighted and it would have the information there. I might also want to drag the color block below the camera, and now it's not showing there. So that's the example of a color block. I'm showing you these now to get your setup up and running, because at any time I could go back to the camera itself and be able to transition back and forth. This is something that I would be controlling during the live stream. I really want to make a point. I want to lean in. I want to let you know what's going on. And then I switch back to it where I show you something that's going on in the screen. Another source that you could have would be a browser source. Now, this would be a third-party URL or potentially a widget that you wanted to have that you were showing up. I'll give you an example of that in another video that I'm going through. Image slideshow. Now, if you're giving something that's a presentation and you want it to be able to page its way through some images that you're going through. These could be screenshots that you had. This could be that you are a travel agent and you're talking about photos from your trip, and you don't want to have to sit there and click the mouse for every single one of them that you're going through. You can do an image slideshow. Now, I do auto racing live broadcast where I'm doing watch-alongs or live streams. So if I go to add a source, I could say always play even when it's not visible, meaning that if it's clicked, it's still going to be looping through and taking the next one. Regarding the slide mode, and I'm going to do another video on this so that you can see all of the settings specifically for image slideshows. So I won't spend a lot of time here, but you'll see, do I automatically have it or do I have to do a hotkey? What is the transition that goes between the images? What is the time between the slides, transitions, etc.? When I go to add an image, I can add individual files, or I can create a directory on my computer, and it will go and look at the directory, and then it will be able to page through it. Let's go ahead and add a directory that I would be looking for. I'll scroll down here a little bit and see what's available and what I'm showing there, maybe I'll be able to have one that I was able to do that wouldn't be back in February. See, this is where I get into it. I hadn't pre-planned on that. I could still go back to the image slideshow. I could add individual files that I wanted to display here. So I want to display this one and I want to display this one. I open them and now you see this is where it's going to show up. I could have this down again in the lower corner, and you see how it changes between the particular images on its own. And then if I set it correctly, there it is. It'll actually loop through. I use one of these where I have informational facts, kind of like I'm dating myself, but a VH1 pop-up video where it would have information about, if I'm in gameplay mode, it would talk about some of the tips and techniques or definitions that you might have to explain to somebody, control this, control that, and it would show them what to do. So we've gotten through the image slideshow. I can do text, a free flow text that I want to have, that I can also set that is based upon system fonts, etc. So I could have my text free flow. It's going to have the information. What text do I want to show up? I'm going to put thank you, and I'm going to do a thank you, and you'll see where I'm putting this, that it actually showed up in white. Let's see, where did my text flow actually end up showing up. That's one of the difficulties. It's up here in the upper right-hand corner. I brought it down so that it can show over the top of my color block. Let me see. I'm going to change the font that is going to be on that. I don't want it to be a Helvetica. I really want it to be something that's a little bit different. And I click it, and that would have the information available to me. Again, anything that I add is on top of what was there. If I wanted to change the color, I could. Back to the slideshow. Okay, I'm done with it. I want to hide it. I can hide it, unhide it, and say, okay, great, bought a cup of coffee. Wait a second. You just saw something here. I want the cup of coffee to come up over the top of the slideshow. I can drag this up above it. You'll see the little yellow line there. Now the coffee's above. When I go away from that, boom, now we got the slideshow still going on. Your Mac OS screen capture is for Macintoshes to allow me to pick up an additional screen if I need to. A VLC source is a playlist of videos that I can put on my screen. Audio capture might be what we have for the built-in microphone, that type of information. You might also have an external type of input that's going on. An audio output capture may be your desktop audio. So if you're playing a game on your computer, or if it's not a media file, it's something that you want them to be able to hear, the clicks, the mouse clicks, those types of things, then you would select this particular source. There are times where I'm doing a broadcast where I want the video to play in the background and I want the audio to be heard from the video background. Let's look at here that you'll see that the events list has a sign. The video capture device has a sign. What do I mean by that? If I go over to one of the videos that I have and it's actually playing, you'll see the sound start to show in the bottom right-hand corner for video capture device.
To know how many deals you need to...
Well, did I actually set that up correctly? I'm hearing it. I have to go over here and change the settings on this. And if I go ahead and change the settings here at the top of my audio tree that I'm going through, my video capture device, right now I had the monitor off. I could do the monitor only where it would mute the output, or monitor and output. So that's a way that you could have the video playing that you wanted to show somebody. Again, I do that for highlights, etc. So we've gone through video capture device. That was the first thing that we set up. That was our built-in webcams. We've gone through display capture, which would be the monitors. We went away from display capture to strictly do a Windows capture because I wanted one particular window to show up. If we wanted to do a collaborative, then we would be able to give them a URL that they would be able to connect to their web browser or their Streamlabs desktop so that the two of us could be displaying Call of Duty, some sort of game, some sort of interview that you were doing for a podcast. It would give you the opportunity to do this. If I wanted a scene to show up as a source, meaning another scene that I had created, I could have that as an overlay. And then when I go to do an instant replay, it could capture a replay of my gameplay that I had, something along that line. Okay, so we'll close that out. We'll see that we have the different screens that are here. I can go back to my camera only. I can go here. When I click on the edit scene transitions, you'll notice that it's just going screen, screen. Well, now I can actually change what the type of transition is between the two screens. I can do it as a Luma wipe, for example, that will show me going back and forth. I can say, okay, great, I've made this as the change to transitions. Now when I go back over to the camera, you'll see that it swipes back and forth. If I want to change what the global transition is, I have fade, swipe, slide, fade to color, a stinger that will go on. I'm going to go ahead and do a fade to color, and it's going to say, well, what particular color do I like to use? I can pick what I want. Hey, pretty close to my shirt here. We'll do this with a color that it'll go back and forth. I change out of this, and then I go to my camera, and you'll see that it did the flash back and forth. You are in control of what you want to do between your screens. I'll set it to just a plain fade. Now I go back and forth, and it faded between the two. That looks pretty professional. I wanted to go through that first before we then go to the widgets. If I scroll down here a bit, you'll see some of the widgets. Again, different videos that I will create for each one of the widgets. The main one that we're going to look at here is going to be an alert box that we put on here. So I'm going to look through viewer count, tip jar, all of the different settings that we're able to do on the settings. If I have the alert box, which is one of the essential sources, it is a widget, but the alert box, I'm going to add that as a source. I'm going to call it the alert box. It's going to come up, and then it's going to give me all of these different selections as to alerts that I can set up. You already know what's coming. That's going to be a separate video where we go through every single one of these different sources. That being said, you can imagine that if somebody does a subscription and we pick this, we want to know that something is going to occur, and we can pick a image media. We can upload the media if we want to. We can go from one of the stock files and say, if somebody subscribed, we could pick one of these things and have curtains show up. We could have dollars. Well, for subscribing, I don't think it's really going to be dollars. I'm going to have it be, let's do the bird, okay? And the little dancing bird is going to come on here and show up. So if somebody subscribes to the channel while I'm going through this, the little bird is going to show up, and it's going to show up here in the alert box location. Again, I could completely control, whoops, I picked the wrong screen. If I do that, I just hit Control Z and I go back to it. Alert box is here on the very top. I'm going to make sure that I grab the corner, and I'm going to shrink this down, and I want the alert box to appear right above my camera, and I will have the little dancing bird come up when it is subscriptions. I can go back at any time, click the little gear symbol to change, and I could have what occurs with a donation. Well, looks like the donation, if somebody made the donation and I go to the stock files, that this would be a great time to have the $sign show up. You see how we're going through each one of the different steps. It also can support if somebody has done a Facebook like, a Facebook share, if somebody has followed, if they've bought your merchandise. Again, another video will go through each one of the steps that goes through this, including tipping, those types of things. So if we want individual widgets that show up regarding our view counter, how many people are viewing at this particular time? So I did a color block, and I did that on purpose. If I click the view counter, and this is going to be one of the last portions that we go through, and I add this as a source as my view counter, then it's going to look and it's going to say, well, wait a second, what are you signed up for? What views am I going to show? Where am I going to show the actual viewers? And you'll see it here in the corner where I could have that actually below me, on the camera because it's on the top layer. Or if I go back to the solid color block that I did, if I did the color block and actually increased it a bit in size here above the thank you, and then I took the viewer block and moved it up here and shrunk it in size a little bit, this is going to show my viewers. Probably won't work the best for what I'm doing with YouTube because it's showing Twitch, YouTube, the other settings. Again, I am in complete control, and this is what's going to display out to the public. Now, I want viewer count, and I want the alert box to also show up when I'm doing my camera only. I don't want to lose the attention that I have from that particular standpoint. I'm hovering over viewer count. I'm going to hit Control C or Command C. I'll go to the camera only screen. I'll hit Control V, and now you see that it shows up, and I could put it right over the top of me if I so desired. Go back to the other screen. Go to my alert box. I can hit Control C on it. I could come back over here, do a Control C, and over my shoulder right here, that little bird will show up, the little $sign, etc., even when I'm on the camera only. So that's a great way for you to be able to switch back and forth of what you're doing. So you can do multiple different layouts. You can do all of these sections here. If I now wanted to actually go live and go into my settings here, then I can click go live, and it's going to ask me where do I actually want to broadcast to. The paid version of Streamlabs, and that's an option that you have, allows you to do something called multi-stream. Again, I'll have a different video that will talk about all the details of multi-stream. Notice that when I turn on Twitch or I turn it off, it then asks me, what are some of the settings am I going through? What are the categories that I have? This one particularly would be sports, and then what are my connections that I would go through? If I'm doing strictly YouTube, then it's going to ask me, is this a new live event? Or is this a scheduled live event? You want to increase your viewers, you could say it's currently Monday. On Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, I'm going to go live. You would create that underneath, down here in the bottom, underneath the schedule, and you would say, I'm going to go live at a future time. Notice I have some lives that occurred in the past. So then when I actually said that I was going to go live, it's going to ask me, is this a new event or is this an event that you had scheduled in the future? I can control my title. I can control my description. I can say whether or not this is public. I can say what the category is, and then I can upload a thumbnail so that it shows when my live is done, people can still view this. If I was doing a gameplay and I wanted somebody to see it in the future, then I would be able to go through this. Do I want it to auto start and auto stop of what I go through? If I clicked confirm and go live right now, because it's connected with my account, it would go live right at this particular second. If I said stream to Facebook as well, then it has the settings that are here for Facebook, what Facebook page I want to select and go to, and then within YouTube. For YouTube, you associate one account. If you wanted to do multiple accounts, don't do them at the same time. You would have to log out of this particular account on the desktop and then re-log in at another time. I'll cover all of that in another video. So we went through all of the steps. I'm now on the schedule. How do I get back to this? If I click on the editor, and sometimes it doesn't go immediately to the editor, so I click Layout Editor and then go back to the editor, and now you're back to seeing the screens that I'm on. When I get ready to go live, I would select what is the screen that I want to start with. That's a little bit close to me. I'm going to go ahead and move that up and move it, let's say, over. And then I'm going to make sure that my alert box doesn't conflict with that. So I'm going to move my alert box. There we go. Kind of move it over. Now we won't have an overlap that's going on. I would choose what screen I want to start on. So if I went to go live, hey everyone, I'm looking forward to spending the next 2 hours with you where we talk about, or we're going to jump into gameplay, or I'm going to evaluate. As a coach, I'm going to evaluate your YouTube channel. Here's a YouTube channel that was sent into us. So I'm going to go through the details. We'll talk about all of the setup and be able to go through it. That's coming up on my live channel. So here we go, and let's jump right in. So there you go. That would be the start that you would go through. It would show you, and there in 40 minutes, and I took a lot of time going through this, within 40 minutes, we were able to show you step by step what you would be able to do to go live. So until next time, if you've got questions about live streaming, about Streamlabs, OBS, all of those types of settings, leave a comment for this particular video. Check out our website, asktheearl.com. And until next time, make it a great day.